Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, new Switch feature, Soft Serve. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, as I am always joined, by Mark Mitchell. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Patrick. I am happy to announce that today I pulled the ripcord and Christmas music playlist is back in the mix.
Whoa.
Yep, it's happening.
Whoa.
It's happening. You know, I thought I was in the mood to hear Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Sure.
It's why deny myself that pleasure just because it's the beginning of October? Nay, the middle of October.
Nay, the beginning of October. Let me ask you this. Is this it from here until January? Or is this preview season and then it's going to go away and then it's going to come back?
I think if I'm feeling it, I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to let it happen. Because here's the thing.
Wow.
Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is For You is doesn't have to be a Christmas song. You can want things for Christmas all year round.
Yeah.
It can be June and you can be like, man, I would really like that for Christmas. Hint, hint. And then, somebody buys it, keeps it until December. Then, Christmas Day, you get it, but you could want it all year round.
But it is,
I don't
first
know
of
why I'm
all,
being defensive about this. I don't have to.
I'm going to attack you. That's why you're being defensive. I think it is weird to any time of year, including Christmas time, to declare that what you want for Christmas is a human being, right? In any capacity.
Yeah, I guess if you don't believe in love or happiness.
Oh my! And I don't. Of course.
You're our resident Scrooge. I know.
Here's the thing with Christmas music is that since we are in October, it does mean that the Nightmare Before Christmas is fair play. You can play the music from The Nightmare Before Christmas in October.
Okay.
And some of that music is Christmassy. Like What's This is like a Christmassy kind of song.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I feel like you may have a logical leg to stand on here, but I don't like it.
Well, maybe our listeners have opinions.
Yeah, maybe they do. And I would love to hear, when do you start playing Christmas music? And specifically, is it too early to start playing Christmas music right now? You can write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
And that's not all you can do with that email address.
It is a multifaceted email address.
You can send a separate email, please,
to
borrow Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces.
That's right. And you send this email to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com and include your mailing address.
Right. And when you do that, then you get put on a list. And this isn't the kind of list where some government goons are going to show up wearing dark sunglasses and bulletproof vests under their three-piece suits.
This isn't even Santa's list. We're not checking this twice.
No, I check it once. And that's it. If it passes the first check, it gets through. And I send you my copy of Sonic Forces, whether or not that's what you want for Christmas. Because, look, someone's got to play this game, and it ain't going to be me. So if you want this and you want to play this game on your Switch, make your own little Sonic avatar, maybe put a Santa hat on him. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it is. You should write to us and do that.
Maybe you don't want to borrow Patrick's copy of Sonic Forces, though. But
hey, understandable.
You do have opinions about what the best NES game and 7 other great NES games might be as well, because on November 8th we are going to be releasing an episode where we definitively come up with a list of the 8 best NES games of all time, and only one game per series can be on there. So that means Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, only one of those games is going to make this list.
That's right. And Lost Levels, let's throw that on there too.
Yeah,
actually,
sure.
No, let's not throw it on there because that was another part of this, is that we are only talking US games, right?
Well, I mean, I guess it wasn't released
because we're saying NES. We are not saying
that's right.
Super Famicom or Famicom.
That's right.
Super or otherwise. And look, this is one where we'll be at each other's throats, right? Because there are only 8 that are going to make it, and it has to be unanimous. And because it is unanimous, it will of course be definitive. But we will go crazy if you don't help us out. So
yeah, we desperately need your help.
So please email those into Nintendo Cartridge Society
At
at gmail.com. And look, as always, if you just want to suggest one that absolutely has to be on the list, or put up a good argument for why, the original Zelda shouldn't be on the list, like, you can do that too. We don't necessarily need all of your 8. Anything, does this sound too desperate? Anything you can do to help, we would greatly appreciate. It sounds too desperate, doesn't it?
I think it sounds desperate enough.
Mark, that is where I thrive. Okay, let's get into the topic for this week, which, of course, is predicting what the Switch revision will be.
And I believe in Tuesday's episode, we promised that we'd be predicting this with 100% accuracy. So that's a lot to live up to.
That's a lot. It is a lot, but we're going to do it. But first things first, we've been saying Switch revision. We got to find, you and I have to land on a better name so that we can use it while talking about this for the rest of this conversation.
Yeah, and just to put a little bit of context as to why we're talking about this.
Yes.
The Wall Street Journal Japan and then the US edition of the Wall Street Journal reported that Nintendo was working on I can't remember exactly what they called it. Basically just like a new Switch to be released in 2019.
Right. And the latter half of 2019. Which I guess, first of all, how does that make you, like, what's your initial reaction to it? It's just a little over 2 years after I guess maybe like 2.5 years after the release of the system to be getting a hardware revision that soon. How does that feel?
That seems about right to me.
Yeah.
Like, not just for how Nintendo has operated in the past, with the DS and the DS Lite and the DSi.
Yeah.
And the 3DS and the 3DS XL and the 2DS and the new 3DS and the new 2D. We see this with the PS4 and the Xbox One and the PlayStation and hardware, just they get revisions.
Hardware is iterative now. Yeah. And not even now, but just have been for a while. It does seem a little bit quick. Like, we were probably like 4-ish years into the PlayStation Xbox life cycle before we got the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro.
But the Slims came out before that. Like, we got the Xbox
that's interesting,
S,
yeah.
and we got the PlayStation, like the PlayStation 4 redesign, right? Like the smaller, thinner one.
I guess,
is that even a thing? Or am I thinking of the PlayStation 3?
I mean, the PlayStation 3 definitely had from like the big fat one down to because I never had an OG PlayStation 3.
Well, and then it got a revision after that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, I mean, I guess basically what it comes down to is that we don't know what this is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be a Xbox S, like an Xbox One S type revision, or like a DS Lite type revision, or if it's going to be like an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro type revision.
Right. Is it just going to be like a sleeker, easier to use version of what already exists? Is it going to be like fundamentally different on a hardware level? Is it going to be a more powerful version of the Switch? Like, I think all of these options are on the table, and any one of them sort of makes sense to me. I don't know how you're feeling about that.
Yeah, so I guess like the one thing to me that is leaning away from it being a DS Lite type revision is that
now just to clarify, when you say DS Lite kind of revision, that's just like make it sleeker.
It was just cosmetic.
Yeah.
The functionality was the same, like the insides were the same. And the reason I lean away from that for this Switch revision is I think they're going to want to make docks and Joy-Cons compatible.
Right.
And if you make it
forever,
like thinner or a different dimensions, I think that becomes problematic.
Yeah. I think that's probably right. Though I do think that even if maybe we can save the rest of this for a little bit like later in the conversation about what specifically we think is going to happen here, or even just the sort of things that could. Do you want to try to get a handle on what we should be calling this thing going forward?
I feel like it's kind of hard to name it before we've decided what it is. Like, let's say we're sticking to Nintendo's like naming conventions, then if
So
it's
we've got a couple different choices, right? Like there's new, but new implies more powerful, right? There's light, which is just a cosmetic redesign. I guess I would also be in the mix
The
of
other thing
like
is-
ending it with I.
they could also just continue to call it Nintendo Switch.
Sure.
Like
And you would just have to figure out what
Yeah.
generation of Switch you have.
I mean, Apple does that or has done that in the past with iPad, where it's just like they have the Pro, but then they also just have iPad, and
Yeah.
it's been called iPad for a while. And you might have 2018's iPad, or you might have 2017's iPad,
and they're
but
both
you
just
just
called
have iPad.
I think the one thing there is no way that they're going to call this is two things that they're not going to call it. No way they're going to call it Switch 2, and there's no way they're going to call it Switch Pro.
I agree.
Because like I think it's so dumb that the PlayStation is called the PlayStation Pro. Pro? Come on.
I mean, I get it. Like in the lexicon, having like the Pro on top of electronics means this one is more cutting edge.
Yes.
Right, this one has the more expensive, the more up to date tech.
Right. Usually for use by someone who is a professional and makes money using this hardware and or software.
Well, only Twitch streamers use the PlayStation Pro.
Sure. Oh, and Street Fighter 5 players with with sweet endorsement deals.
Well, the other reason I think they wouldn't use Pro is because PlayStation uses that as their moniker.
Sure, but PlayStation is stealing the PlayStation 1 Classic for their tiny version
Well,
of the
Sony
PlayStation.
plays dirty.
Sony does play dirty. And Nintendo don't do that.
So that's why I don't think it's going to be called Pro, for the same reason I don't think it's going to be called X.
Yeah, sure. Can you imagine Switch X? Okay, great. So we don't know is what we're saying. We have no idea what it's going to be called.
You know, if I'm going to be, if I had to venture a guess, I think it'll be called New Switch.
I think that's probably right. I don't love that, just because the new branding is so specific with Mario, and like they obviously did it for the 3DS, but like not anywhere else. I always thought it was weird that they were like, yeah, new Super Mario Brothers, but not new anything else. So I wonder if they're going to be more precious with that new.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess the other thing to consider is that past behavior doesn't necessarily predict future behavior.
Great
so
point.
they could call
especially
it,
with Nintendo.
they could call it something totally different.
Right.
But if I were guessing out of the naming conventions we know about that we've seen in the past,
New is
what it would be
probably the
called,
safest bet.
new is probably because. Oh wait, what did we want to go on to next?
Release date is
Oh,
what we
okay,
want to explore
okay.
next.
Okay. September. That's my guess.
You think like well ahead of the holidays that they don't want to hold it to like. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to make it the Black Friday item, because you almost want to have it on sale well enough before then, and then have people go nuts, like get the extra sales boost at that
Yeah,
point.
I don't really know what the assuming that they are like manufacturing enough to have it released in September, I
Yeah.
don't really know what the benefit is of holding it until closer to the holidays. People do their shopping, like a lot of people begin their shopping fairly early.
Yeah.
And I mean, just think about like iPhones. You know, you are going
So the iPhones do come out like September, October, right?
right, exactly. And so, you know, and they sell a ton of them over the holidays, but they also benefit from having them out in the market for as long as possible.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess for me it almost doesn't matter when it releases. So I guess that makes me a dispassionate predictor in this regard.
Yeah, I don't think it makes any difference I don't think it makes any difference at all. Like, I don't feel like the other revisions that we've seen have come out at like specifically targeted times.
Well, that's interesting, and I also didn't look into it at all when other revisions have come out, like what time of year, and like specifically from Nintendo. So we're going to be really hard pressed to come up with data on that. Although, yeah, I'm actually now I'm like thinking back through Nintendo's kind of history of all of this, and like I had forgotten until thinking about it right now that they re-released the NES with like a top-loading for the cartridges.
Did you ever see one of those in the wild? I
We
never
owned one.
Oh yeah, I never saw one in the wild. I remember seeing one in like a toy magazine.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, and it's got those like dog bone controllers that like the shape of them is like the Super Nintendo controller, but like the buttons are obviously like a Nintendo controller. But so yeah, so suffice to say that yes, they've done this a bunch. And no, we don't know the dates of when any of that happened, and no, we are not going to look it up. Are we ready to move on to features?
I think so.
Here's the thing. I'm going to go back now and give my prediction for release date.
Okay. Wait, what?
I'm going back.
wait.
I said let's move
I just
on.
want. I just want to know exactly what I just want to document.
Yes.
Exactly what happened here.
Yes.
You were like, we will never know
Right.
the release date. Can't possibly guess. Let's move on
It's
from
futile to guess.
Let's move on from release date and talk about features. But before we do that, let me go back and
You
give
got
my.
it.
Okay, great.
You got it.
Just
Nailed
wanted
it.
to make sure.
My birthday, October? When is my birthday? August 24th, 2019.
Oh yeah, that's a great guess. I love it.
Right. Happy birthday to Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a new Switch.
Yep.
Let's do that. Features. What do you think this thing can do? What do you think? Are you expecting it to be like all under the hood stuff? Do you think that we're going to see any like hardware features that are going to be different? Part of the reason I'm pressing on this is from the DS to the DSi is when a camera is introduced, and
An online store.
and an online store. Yeah. So I guess for me, one of the biggest areas where the Switch needs to be improved is in its connectivity and its online capabilities. Obviously, it has a store already, and yes, you can play games online, but it is not the like most reliable online network, or whatever. Its ability to play online is measurably weaker than the other two systems, and in a way that actually makes your experience with the game lesser, right? So I don't know if that means that they have a way for you to like hardwire into an internet connection, like through a dock, or if they just do whatever they need to do to make the things like Wi-Fi antenna stronger, or whatever. I think that is something they need to solve for.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you're not talking like software wise. You're not talking.
I mean, that's hardware, right?
Right. Sorry, I'm just clarifying
Yes.
that you are not talking about like, oh, Nintendo needs to upgrade their like Nintendo Switch Online program to be more like Xbox
No.
Live, or you're talking about like the actual like antennas built into
Yeah.
the Switch. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that like
The Wi-Fi is like shabby.
yeah, why? Like, what is that you can be standing, within feet of your wireless router and be getting like way lower bars than you are on your phone or than any other game, anything that connects to the internet, which is to say everything. Like, why is the Switch the thing that's in my house connecting to the wireless the least effectively?
Yeah, the interesting thing about like these rumors of a Switch revision to me is like hardware wise, I'm other than the connectivity, like the antennas, which I am totally on board for. I'm pretty happy with the Switch. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really need it to be thinner.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess like it'd be nice if the screen was
Took up more real estate of the thing, or
maybe like I don't even like really know if I need that or want that.
yeah. Well, and like they've already said that they're not talking about changing the Switch's display. So like it's not going to move to like an OLED or like any other method of like showing you stuff. The screen is going to look like the screen, and the screen is it's already beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there are
And
things they
bright.
could do, like, because even like iPhone devices or pretty much any phone that still uses an LCD screen, like they are, or LED screen, whatever, they are like laminated to the glass, like they are like very close.
Yeah,
And the Switch is definitely not like that. The Switch
Right.
is like one of the
it's a little bit thicker.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
it's a little bit like further back. It's like using like a original iPad.
Yeah.
Where you take for granted now that the pixels are like right on the glass.
Right.
Like the Switch
And you
doesn't
get
do
some
that.
pixels on your fingertip, and you gotta like wipe them off on your jeans.
I guess my because I don't know as far as like hardware is going to go, like I guess like the kickstand could be nicer. I don't know. But what I think this is going to be, especially coming like 2.5 years into the Switch,
Yeah.
is kind of going to be like a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X type step up, where it will continue to run every Switch game, or like I guess like a new 3DS, but more than that, where this will be like a big upgrade in like silicon.
Yeah, sure. Just in processing power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like the games will look nicer. The resolutions can be higher when docked, like things like that.
Frame rates less stuttery. Yeah.
Because I think we will just continue to see these steps instead of generational leaps, where it's just like, okay, so if this next version of the new Switch runs all the Switch games that have come before, and then new Switch runs all the games that play on new Switch and new Switch, and
Right.
like so
Right,
on and
right,
so
right.
forth, then you never need like a brand new generation of hardware. You're just always baby stepping people into the next generation. So it's like you don't want to pick up this one, you can pick up the next one, and you're not missing anything.
Right. And I think what's important for that is that and I don't know how many like generations of this you have to account for, but like that they won't be releasing a game in 2020 that you can't play on your first generation Switch.
Yeah, right.
Which is still like largely true for the 3DS. There are very few like strictly new 3DS games. And to date there are no exclusive PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X games. So I think that's got to be something that they shoot for. And it makes sense too that there would be like the Switch is already scaling as it is between docked mode and handheld mode, not in terms of like processing power, but just in terms of like its power draw. That's what allows it to render at higher definition or at a better frame rate when it's on your TV than when it's on the pad in front of you. So yeah, I think that makes perfect sense to be like part of this, but do you think that is it? Do you think that they're just going to like clean up the processing power and just make it a stronger version of the exact same machine?
No, I mean, I think it will be redesigned.
Sure.
I don't know exactly what that means or even what I would want that to mean.
I think it still means largely internal stuff. Like I think they have to address the not, so I'm going to say the battery. But I don't mean to imply that I think that the battery life is wanting. I mean, I remember us when before the Switch came out and we were like hearing about like, big problems. You can only play Zelda on it for like 3 hours and then you need to charge it. And it's like, well, that's kind of okay. Like I end up using it in the dock so much, and like you just sort of start to prepare for it. And you're like, I just have a battery, or I'll get to it an outlet, or why am I playing Zelda for 4 hours anyway? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really have a problem with its battery life, but I could see them addressing it. But also that's been one of the like ways in which the Switch has like physically failed, is that the battery expands in some cases, and sort of like cracks the casing a little bit. So if they just got something that was a less of a liability for the machine itself, and just make the battery more reliable in a physical sense, that would be an improvement.
Yeah, other than that, like, I guess I just like genuinely don't know. I'm excited to be surprised.
Yeah. Do you want to talk like some like way out there wild things that could be part of a Switch revision?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mentioned a camera earlier. The Switch currently has no camera. It has no microphone. Do you think it's possible that we could see some of the stuff that we had seen in both the Wii U gamepad and the 3DS like cameras.
I do, and I
incorporated?
think it would be the perfect opportunity for them to release 123 Switch that has video and microphone capabilities.
123 Switch. You heard it here first. 100% accuracy. 123 Switch will appear on the new Switch, whatever it's called.
Well, okay, I mean, this is backtracking a little bit, but
Let's do it, baby.
would you
you
want
want to go back to release date?
Patrick's birthday? Would you want? I mean, the answer is yes, but like, do you think it's do you think it's important
Mhm.
for this Switch revision to work with Labo, the
Uh,
existing Labo kits?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
so that would seem to say that like the dimensions have to be very similar.
I think the
I guess
dimensions
just of the Joy-Con. No, you do
you
use
can
the
use the Switch itself. I think the dimensions of the Switch itself also have to stay the same. I mean, you mentioned the docks and like that's I guess it is true that the thing sticks out of the dock. It is physically taller than the dock is. So maybe that's not
Well, it's more the rails for the Joy-Con that I think are the problem.
Yeah. I mean, the rails for the Joy-Con need to be the same, but also they've sold so many like cases and stuff. And I guess they sold cases for the original DS and then had to change them for the 3DS as well. But like, I think the dimensions of the thing are about as close to perfect as you would want them to be. I think a bigger Switch is kind of ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
it is already borderline too big to like travel with without thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not like the DS or the 3DS where you're like, I could use a larger screen on this.
Yeah. What do you think about oh shoot. Oh yeah, what do you think about a non-detachable Joy-Con version of this
I
where it's just one solid piece of hardware?
yeah, like I don't understand the point other than lower cost.
Yeah, or if you just are like trying to think of it as like just your designated handheld system.
Yeah, but yes, and I know that people have speculated that it's like, oh, they should just release a handheld version of this. But from my limited perspective,
Yes.
and maybe that is what they're going to do, but that seems to defeat the purpose of the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And even though you could, even if you like had this version, that you could still throw it in a dock and then play with a Pro controller or a different set
Oh,
of
I guess
Joy-Cons.
that's true.
Like,
I guess that's true.
if you just make one where the Joy-Cons don't come off, I guess I don't even really know what the point of that is, other than just to be able to travel with one piece of something.
I guess, but when you put the Joy-Con in, it
They snap into
basically
place.
is that anyways.
Yeah. And also the ability to pull off the Joy-Con and play with someone else, not in front of the TV, is still magical. Every time I do it, it is like a whoa, we're playing Street Fighter right now. You know, it's always a surreal sort of experience, and I don't think you want to get rid of the thing's ability to do that.
Here's a prediction.
Yeah.
I don't think we will see a price drop for the current Switch
Yes.
until new Switch comes out, in which because even if they sold new Switch at the current price of $299, you could drop the old Switch by like $50 or something.
Yeah, or I would guess maybe even less than that. Like they may, I mean, not sell it for less than that, drop it by less than that. Like I could see them selling it for like $279 or something like that.
Or do you think they go the other way and the new Switch is like $100 more, like the Pro is, like the PlayStation 4 Pro?
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they like split the difference. That's sort of what happened with the 3DS. Although the 3DS family of systems is so convoluted at this point between 2DSs, new 2DSs, 3DSs, and new 3DSs, that like I don't really have a like what's the baseline one? I don't even know. I don't even know anymore which one is like the basic one.
There are so many like pricing options, you know, like it's infinite. Like they could the new Switch could cost $50 more, and then
Right.
they drop the price, so there's still like $100 price difference between the two.
Yeah. So let's since we're in the business of making predictions and they're accurate, let's make a prediction.
Okay.
Let's say it's going to be $50 more expensive. Let's say it's going to be $350.
And I'm going to guess that the current Switch will drop
to 250.
Yes, to 250.
Bold predictions here, but that's what we do on the show.
Are you interested in a new Switch?
Sort of. I am, as we've expressed already, happy with my Switch, right? And well, there's no real need in my house for us to have two Switches. Sarah doesn't not play the Switch, and I can use that as a real nice excuse to buy myself the new one, and then give the old one to her. But I don't know. What are you thinking? Are you thinking that this is something that you would jump on?
I think it's something that I will end up picking up. If the Joy-Con carry over, that is a huge selling point for me.
Yeah.
Not having to buy like new Joy-Con. Plus, I would probably just
No, wait, sorry. What are you saying there? Not having to, are you suggesting that there would be like a version of the new Switch that doesn't come with Joy-Con?
No. Sorry, I just mean like I have 2 set of Joy-Con, and then if they are no longer compatible with new Switch,
Oh, that would.
then I would not. Then I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do that. But if they're compatible with new Switch, then it's like, yeah, I would trade in or sell my old Switch and put that towards like a new Switch. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and also, so I only have the original pair of Joy-Con. If I were to buy a new Switch and then have two like the full complement of Joy-Cons, then yeah, that's another thing that like I might do to round out my collection anyway. Is just have enough Joy-Cons to play Super Mario Party with four players at once. And then you've got the two Switches to do the like Toad's Rec Room stuff as well. So I don't know. Like I feel like we could just have the conversation about like, hey, do you sort of want to have two Switches? And the answer is kind of like, yeah, I kind of do.
Why not?
Is there anything we're overlooking here? Anything crazy that Nintendo might do or could do with the Switch? What about 3D? 3D Switch? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, I don't. But, like one thing we pretty much dismissed right out of hand is the idea that they would redesign it to be thinner, or, and like the Joy-Cons wouldn't work and the screen is larger.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. Definitely possible.
Yeah. I suppose that is definitely possible. Do you think, going in the opposite direction of what we said before, that they would do a just docked version of the Switch?
Oh, interesting.
That they're like, for someone who's like, I'm never gonna take this thing on
Yeah,
the train. I play my games at home. I want to play Zelda.
Like the Apple TV type.
Yeah,
thing
or
where-
like the there was a thing for, I think it was called PlayStation TV.
Oh, right.
That
yeah.
was like a Vita that you plugged into your TV and played with a DualShock controller. Yeah, something like that just goes into the TV, can't be taken with you.
Or more than just a Switch that is has like the Joy-Cons attached, like those like Kindle Fire tablets that are just for kids, where they're like encased in rubber, and they're
Yeah.
more, because one thing the Switch is not is particularly child friendly.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you compare it to other Nintendo handhelds. Because those things, you can run over the original Game Boy with a tank and it's fine. But like, I still 2 years in, not even 2 years in, but like a year and a half in, I still baby my Switch when I travel with it.
Right, or when I'm like sliding it in and out of the dock.
Right, which we will do for 20 minutes at a time, just slowly sliding it in and out of the dock.
Well, I mean, it's one of the 1-2 Switch games.
That is true. Singing it back to sleep. So yeah, I mean I think that would be a decent hardware revision that just makes it more sturdy or like kid proof.
Yeah, because I mean, our thoughts are obviously more towards like, oh, how are they going to enhance it and soup it up and make it appealing to nerds? When the opposite could very well be true. The 2019 Pokemon,
Yes.
the core game, is going to be coming out.
Now that is fascinating, because it very well could be that they are redesigning or like upgrading the Switch with Pokemon in mind, like as their sort of like flagship thing of like, we have to be able to put this in the hands of, because Pokemon sells 30 million copies or whatever. Like you have to have the install base to actually to meet the Pokemon demand. Otherwise, the Pokemon company is going to be like, you know what? Maybe we can publish these somewhere else.
Well, so the one thing that I guess I would say that I don't know how much they're like the two are correlated is that there's a Pokemon game coming out this year.
Yeah.
And it's a Pokemon game that is for children.
Yeah.
You know, or like is positioning itself as very beginner friendly.
Yeah. But I mean, even like every Pokemon game is for children, right?
Yeah, but I mean this one like to the extreme.
Sure.
Where they're like, you can use one hand to play this.
Right. But you do sort of have to use motion controls. That's interesting. I do think the one of the other reasons that and maybe we weren't ever even talking about reasons why they might be doing this, but I don't think Nintendo expected to have quite the third-party support that they are having. And I wonder how many like questions or stumbling blocks they're getting from developers, especially bigger developers that want to put their games on Switch, but know that the thing doesn't have the horsepower to actually run them. And so, we've obviously seen them attempt some like creative solutions like the Resident Evil 7 streaming in Japan or the Assassin's Creed Odyssey streaming in Japan. And if they can fix it so some of those things could actually run natively on Switch, that obviously increases their relationship with Capcom and Ubisoft and other people that are doing those level of games. But also if they're just improving the thing's ability to stream, what I was saying before about like the wireless antenna, like I think a lot of the revisions that they're going to make are not with their own software in mind, but realizing that they are a vibrant platform for other publishers, and therefore have responsibilities to these other publishers.
Do you think this could just be like a quality of life update? Like maybe they don't even announce it, right?
Sure.
Like maybe it's just a hardware revision that like the microprocessors are like shrunk, right?
Yeah, it's just cheaper for them to
it's
make
just
it.
cheaper for them to make. There's the battery life is maybe better because it generates less heat. They improve the
So I do think that the battery swelling issue is something that they need to do, just because it has to be costing them money.
Right, and then like, you improve the wireless antenna, but that's not a feature. It's just like silently release these new versions of the Switch out, and it's just like a new serial number, and then the internet, will track down the ones, and people like they do for like if your screen has a yellow tint in the 3DS or something, they'll return it to the store until they get one that has the color timing that they want, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like people will be hunting for the better wireless or the better batteries or whatever, but to the consumer, it's just the Switch.
Yeah, I think that is very probably right, that it will be something that, we're not commenting or we're not predicting based on Nintendo saying we're going to do this. We're talking about reporting and rumors that like Nintendo is looking into doing this. So it could very well be that we are all just like too plugged into the Switch right now and want it to be iterated on because we see a thing that we love and we're like, let's, because when Nintendo finally does say, okay, here's the successor to the Switch, like that'll be, who knows what it'll be, right? But it'll be something exciting. And so I think it's just fun, right? Like it's just fun to speculate on like what the next one of these might be. But it might be, pretty mundane, just like a better working version of the same thing.
It's just cheaper for them. The profit margins are higher.
I hope it is more than just a cheaper for them. Like I hope it is honestly just like some better processing power, the better wireless antenna, and fix the battery. Is most of what I would expect from this,
and basically what I want.
Yeah. And then we'll both buy second Switches, and then you've already won Nintendo. Okay, Mark, let's close out the segment. Okay, so did we predict anything?
With 100% degree
Mm-hmm.
Certainty.
Yes. But if you, listener, have any ideas, predictions about what you think it's going to be, and we already predicted it to absolute certainty, so we still want to hear what you have to say, but just know that's probably not going to be right. You can write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
Also, if you have any like wild out there like hopes and dreams, like you really think this thing should have smell-o-vision in it, so you can smell Wario's breath when there is no WarioWare game on this thing, is there?
No. Someday
You can write to us at that same email address. I'm not going to say it again. Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. All right, Mark, that's going to do it for this episode of the show. If you liked it, please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. All of that helps us. How much, Mark?
A lot.
A lot. If you could share the episode, that also helps us. How much, Mark?
A lot.
On social media or whatever. I am on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. And we're on Facebook, and that just works the way you think it does by typing in the name of the show in the search bar when you're on Facebook, and you'll find our page. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on ReckonPunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. From my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, thanks for listening.